Hey everyone, it's Sam, and welcome back to the 911 Nonsense podcast. To stay in the loop, learn about upcoming guests, and join in the conversations with the Noon community, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And hey, if you like what you hear in this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world to us. Get ready for a unique episode of Noon featuring Jack, a nurse with a knack for comedy. With experience in psychiatric wards and skilled nursing facilities, Jack brings a fresh perspective to the table. Tune in as we talk about his hilarious Instagram skits, Tales from the Psych Ward, blending humor and nursing in a truly entertaining way. Don't miss out on the laughs and wisdom with Jack on Noon. Let's get started. All right, Jack, thank you so much for joining us on the Noon podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to have you here. It's really exciting. I can't believe I got you onto the show. Can I go ahead and get a quick introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Jack Svets. I'm a nurse as well as a comedian. I've been in the nursing field for less than 2 years. Just actually had my year anniversary in February. So just been doing it for a little bit, but loving it. Absolutely.
So was the comedian part before the nursing or after the nursing?
The comedian part was before the nursing. So I've been doing stand-up comedy off and on since October of 2018. I did my first open mic then, was doing shows in 2019 and whatnot, then took most of the pandemic off, about 14 months starting in March of 2020, of course, and then started kicking it back in the year after that.
Yeah. How hard was that for you to stop?
You know, it was hard. It was definitely difficult because that was my outlet. That was my main outlet for most situations and most things was to get on stage and just bring light to dark situations. And I couldn't do that for about 14 months. And I wasn't one of those people that had social media. I really didn't have social media until about 6 months ago. I didn't have social media at the time, so I really didn't go online and, do talk about myself or anything like that. So it was definitely, seclusive. But it was nice it was a breath of fresh air to come back.
Sure. So what prompted the move into nursing?
So I was in nursing school or in college, a freshman in college, and knew I was going to do nursing when I started doing comedy. What I really want to do is do comedy, but I knew nursing was going to be a good road to that, not because of anything in nursing, but just simply because it's 3 days a week. You have
Sure.
12-hour shifts, and that allows for, me to go on tour and do shows and stuff like that. But I have actually fell in love with nursing way more than I thought I would. And I think way more than I give myself credit for.
That's really cool. So you talk about having known that you were going to get into nursing. What was like the drive? Was it just the schedule or did you have other reasons?
Originally, yes, but I think I knew I could be really good at it just because I feel like I can connect with people on a different level that a lot of people can't. Not to say that people don't connect with people in other ways, but I do feel like I'm able to help with my communication skills a lot of different types of patients, and that was one of the main drives as well, is knowing I definitely would be able to help.
That's fantastic. So did you have a preferred nursing location or a type of nursing that you wanted to do?
Originally at the end of nursing school, I really did want to get into like the cath lab and cardiology. I actually did my preceptorship in a cardiology lab at Flagstaff Medical Center in Arizona. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Can stick anybody with an IV at any point. And I knew a lot more about the heart in nursing school than I did any other part of the body. And that's kind of what I really wanted to get into. That was hard to get into though, and I never really cracked it. I ended up working at a SNF for quite a few months, and I mean, it was an excellent experience. Working at a SNF is very challenging, but it was a great experience nevertheless. Did that for a little bit because I knew they weren't gonna have me contracted for 2 years, and that was a big thing for me because my fiance and I knew we were moving out to Southern California at the kind of in September of last year. So I knew I was just gonna have to do that, and I was gonna find a job out here. Ended up finding a psych nursing job out here. Still would love to eventually transition into cardiology and cath lab. However, I have fell in love with psych more than I definitely thought I would.
Yeah, that's definitely that takes a special kind of person to go into a psych
I appreciate it. Yeah,
psych
it was
role.
tough. It was tough at first, and I haven't been an exact psych patient myself, but I have struggled with psych issues and know a lot about kind of the what they're going through necessarily, which I think helps a lot.
Yeah, that definitely gives you a better connection, right?
Hmm. Absolutely does. To like everybody says, put yourselves in people's shoes. And I can because I've worn those shoes. It's not as much empathetical as it is just like I've been there, that type of situation.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's great to have empathy, right? I think more people in our fields need that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree.
So what took you from beautiful Flagstaff to Southern California?
Truly, my fiance and I always knew we wanted to live by the beach, but honestly, it was comedy a lot. I'd done a lot of shows in Flagstaff, and there's only so much you can really do in a town like that. And don't get me wrong, love Flagstaff. Honestly, if I was not addicted to the comedy bug, I we probably would have never moved. But that's pretty much why.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. More opportunity, right? I think that's why a lot of people move out to California.
I think so as well. Yep,
It's very expensive out there, though.
it is. It's very expensive out in Southern California, but at the same time, it was pretty damn expensive in Flagstaff as well. I
Really?
Oh, absolutely, because there's only so much space. So much of it is protected land, so much of it is reservations, which is a good thing. Absolutely. But there's only so much space for people to build houses, and I mean, it's a college town. I mean, we were making a lot less in Flagstaff, and if we had the apartment we have here in Flagstaff, it would be probably about a couple hundred less, but we're making so much more out here that it kind of offsets it, honestly.
That's great. That's great to hear. So, are you making a substantial amount of money doing comedy, or is that kind of a
No, yes and no. If I was, I don't think I would be nursing as much. But my goal is by 35 to make as much in comedy as I do nursing. So I've got 11 years to be able to reach my goal. I'm not making a substantial amount of money from comedy, but it is a nice chunk of change to just have on the side for sure.
Yeah, no, that's nice. It sounds like it funds itself mostly with
Oh,
your
absolutely.
traveling and stuff. That's good.
100%. Yeah. No, I don't take losses on anything I do. Mhm.
And so you've gotten the opportunity to start kind of integrating your medical side with your comedy side. Would you say that that helps a little bit?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it brings a different type of audience that a lot of people don't necessarily have, especially with psych nursing. There's not a whole lot of psych nurse comedy out there, and I mean, for however whatever reason you want to say, but I think there is that little niche field, little niche audience that I've collected, which has helped out a ton.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely I would definitely say you've kind of pinholed yourself into a little bit of a niche. And that's
Yeah, yeah.
ultimately how I ended up finding you. One of my friends sent me your Tales from the Psych Ward, one
Hmm.
of your videos, and I watched it and I was like, okay, I got to get this guy on the show.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
make this happen. And that episode that I watched was the one where you talk about how you're wearing girl scrubs and you didn't know.
yeah.
Oh, that one cracks me up so bad, dude.
It's a funny one. The Tales from the Psych Ward, if I may comment on it for a little bit, I love doing it. There's gonna be people in the comments that are like, "Oh, it's a HIPAA violation." It's not a HIPAA violation for a variety of different reasons that we will not get into. But I also think it brings light to a lot of different to humanity in the psych ward, where yeah, I mean there are bad things that do happen, but my most recent one was about a guy doing a Rasputin dance. Like,
Yes.
and I mean, I love doing that one. But I think it also brings light to people that are forgotten. It brings light to them. People forget about people when they go to the psych ward for a variety of different reasons. Maybe they messed up their relationships in their life, and for whatever reason it is. But everybody's human. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody, I just think it brings light to these people that don't have a lot of light.
That's fantastic. No, your series is great. I often forward it myself because I think that they're just hilarious episodes. You have a great face for social media. I'm kind of sad that you only started 6 months ago, but I do look forward to seeing what you have to offer in the future.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I always take the patient's considerations into heart as well. I mean, being a quote unquote psych patient myself, I know if I was in that situation, I would have somebody make light of it. Absolutely, I know I've done some bad stuff, like
Yeah.
like in bad mindsets, I've done some bad stuff. If people can find joy through that, I think it would make their day.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's fantastic. What a great way to think about it. And it's true, right? Like all of us have done bad stuff or messed something up or fucked something up at some point, and then getting the opportunity to laugh at it. I mean, look at my wife. I laugh at her all the time.
Yeah.
She doesn't appreciate it, but man, I have some great stories.
But exactly, like it brings light to people. That's what it does.
Yes. Oh man, that's so awesome. So do you have plans for any other like kind of spin-offs or stories in the future?
There are some like I do talk about. I very sparsely talk about being a nurse on stage, but when I do, it doesn't necessarily doesn't involve nursing as a whole. It's kind of just like a lead into a twist and a joke. I don't plan on doing a whole lot of different nursing stuff. However, you never know. Maybe I do something that's slightly educational or something like that. I do not know, but I'm not opposed to any of the opportunities.
Yeah, always keep it open.
Mhm.
So I want to talk a little bit about the sniff because you said you did a little stint in the sniff. And for people who don't know what a sniff stands for, can you let us know what that is?
SNF is skilled nursing facility. I worked at a skilled nursing facility that was pretty much a long-term care center as well as a rehab center. So when you send your grandparents to the nursing home, I'm the one that is taking care of them.
Okay. And it's not like well, I guess it could be a designated nursing home, but it's where people go a lot of the time for rehab or for.
Yeah, yeah. But like rehab after surgeries and whatnot. Sometimes those people just transition into long-term care depending on how healthy they were coming into rehab. And there were two separate halls. So a lot of the patients I dealt with were long-term care, just simply because I was able to connect with them a little bit better.
That's fantastic. And in your long-term care, did you have any of the, critical care vented patients, or was that not in your sniff?
Sparsely. I had very, very little critical care just because they become such high acuity, and we just truly don't have the staff and sniffs to be the snaps.
The snaps.
Yeah.
That's
We
a
don't,
fantastic new word.
yeah. It's sniff staff, snaps.
Yes.
But we don't have the staff and sniffs.
Oh, that's a great word, dude. I'm just gonna keep using that.
Should, absolutely. I made up the word, go for it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I mean, in my limited experience, well, I say limited, right? I was telling you earlier, I've been in EMS for going on 20 years, and I've seen quite a few sniffs. And I think out of all of the ones I've seen one, maybe two that had the ability to take care of critical care patients. So I know it's not a very common thing.
No, it's not. I mean, sniffs are, dare I say, like the healthcare system in America in general, there to make money. And so that is the unfortunate part about it. A lot of places will say it is care first, and I think every nurse that says that 100% means it. However, when people that are not hands-on with patients say that, it's there's some underlining tones to that for sure.
Right. That's truly the disconnect, right? Is you have the people who are working with the patients and then you have the people who aren't working with the patients, and there's such a clear disconnect when the rules are coming from the people who don't work with the patients.
Absolutely. I agree.
So, did you work in the sniff during COVID or was it post COVID?
Post COVID. So I graduated in December of 2022. So it was pretty much post COVID. We did have multiple COVID outbreaks while I was there, which was incredibly tough to deal with, but it was not 2020 where we had no idea how to deal with it. So that helped a lot.
That no, that's good. And did you ever have a problem? So this was another thing that came to light during COVID, right? We talked about money versus the people who worked on the floor. And one of the issues that we saw in the nursing homes and in the SNFs was that they were just overpacking because they were getting a lot more money from the government
Yeah.
to take care of so many people with COVID patients. Was that an issue that you dealt with?
No, I didn't have that double-edged sword of the government COVID money. Most of the time, we isolated people in their own rooms, as opposed, and even if somebody tested positive for COVID or they both tested positive for COVID, we would separate the rooms just in case it was a different strain. I mean, 99% of the time, it's going to be the same strain. Don't get me wrong, but it totally, or if they're in the same room, it could be definitely the same strain, but it totally could be different and somebody could last longer with it, so we would separate them, which I found very helpful. We did not just pack them in like sardines.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. That's good for the company that you worked for, and that's good for the area that you worked in.
Absolutely.
Um, so is it a common issue for the sniffs to smell like urine?
It is depending on
Saturated?
how saturated, how high acuity. Yeah, saturated is a is a great word to use.
Yes.
Absolutely. How high the acuity was pretty much for that day. Like if we had a lot of total care patients, I mean, you just don't have it was six hands, it was me and two CNAs with 20 patients, So
Wow.
if everybody has lunch at the same time, everybody's going to the bathroom at the same time, you can only change so many people, especially if they're total care or there are 2 to 3 Hoyer assists.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be some time. I mean, obviously we get to people as quickly as we possibly can. Problem is, how quick is that? How humanly possible quick can that be? So yes, sometimes it can smell like urine. However, it's not a consistent smell throughout the nursing home.
That was a very professional answer of you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Despite being a comedian, I feel like I can give professional answers.
Well, that's fantastic. So you did bring up another issue at hand, right? So you talked about you and two CNAs to 20 patients. Was that a normal staffing ratio?
Yeah, for sniffs, that's pretty.
Ugh,
You can go up to 20. At one point, I remember having 37 to me,
wow.
as I was the only RN there, and then there were 4 CNAs. So it definitely can go up to that. Um, and I mean, again, it's all about money. You could hire more people, but you won't be making as much profit for the people at the top. And so that is normal ratios for sniffs. And it is a lot of med pass, it's a lot of wound care, it's a lot of changing, but it's not like the patients aren't usually as high as acuity medically, so that helps on top of it. It's the weighted scale. I prefer not to have I would prefer to have higher acuity, less patients, but then again, I did pick the sniff. So
And that's not a bad place to be. I think, like you said earlier, you get a lot of experience going from one place to another, and a lot of people kind of I think a lot of people shit on, the sniff nurses, but I think that that gives you an opportunity to see people in a position that we don't normally get to see people in every day, right? So you get to determine whether somebody is sick or not sick.
yeah, there's a lot of freedom in a sniff that you don't get at a hospital. I had one NP and she was absolutely fantastic. One of the best doctors I've ever worked with. There are times where I will call a doc and wish it was her on the other line. That's how great she was. But she was only there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, So at the other 4 days of the week, you could call her, but it really was really up to you. You were kind of the highest person. I mean, there was a director of nursing sometimes while I was there, but it wasn't always you were the top of the food chain, and I was the top of the food chain coming out of college immediately. So a lot of freedom, and I think people can either crumble or thrive in that, just depending on who they are.
That's fantastic. So, what kind of numbers are you looking at now in the psych ward?
It varies. Staffing is not particularly great at the moment at the
That's
places,
everywhere.
but that's everywhere. Exactly. Um, Usually, I would say the amount of patients I have is 5 to 6. But I consider everybody on the floor my patient because they are. because it's not a psych ward in the hospital is different from a pediatric ward or the ICU ward. It's very communal. It's a community where a lot of different types of people with a lot of different reasons for whatever they're in there, whether they're in there on a 72-hour hold or they're there conserved, they all are there in a community, trying to help each other. So that's why I consider them all my patients. And also, we have a little different thing at our hospital where it is like there is a specific med nurse. So you deal with more so the acute issues that are going on. But all of them my patients. Directly my patients, though, 5 to 6 on average, have gone up beyond that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough. Have you ever been in a position where you felt unsafe?
Felt unsafe? Not really. I have been assaulted multiple times in the sniff, or not the sniff, sorry. I have been assaulted
I
once in
was
the
going to
sniff.
say probably both.
Yeah, probably, yeah, but it wasn't as bad. The psych ward, I have been assaulted multiple times. Again, I don't like, I never blame a patient really for assaulting me. They're in a bad position, and most of the time it's because they just are having a psychotic break. They think I'm somebody that I'm not. I mean, somebody said after assaulting me that I was laying bombs around their house in 2007. I can't explain to them that I was 8 years old in 2007.
Oh
You know,
man, I feel
like, so I
so
can't
old.
like I can't. Don't don't say
Oh
that.
no.
You're not old, you're experienced. There's
Well,
a difference. Okay.
I appreciate that. Earlier you were like, well, it gives me 11 years to get to 35, and I did the quick math and I was like, fuck.
You're like, okay, 24. Got it.
Experienced. Oh, thanks
Hmm.
for that.
That's a better term to use is experience. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll try that one on my wife. We'll see how she likes that too.
Not old, I'm experienced.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm gonna be saying.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, it's hard to explain to people who are not with it, that you're not of the right age to be laying bombs around. But you never know. Kids
Yeah,
these days are
exactly.
getting a little worse and worse.
Oh, for sure. It's a different time for sure than it was when I was born. But at the same time, it's yes. Have I felt unsafe? Absolutely. The times I feel unsafe though are usually not when things happen, because I feel more prepared in that moment. Like when I get assaulted, it's out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like I usually am pretty much. I mean, somebody swings at you once a week at least. But I definitely am more prepared when I feel unsafe. I know what's going to happen. I know like what hand, like one of my biggest things is you have to learn what hand they are. Like, are they right-handed or are they left-handed? Because if they're going to try and hurt you or swing at you, they're going to use that hand first. And then the reason behind why they're going to hit you is usually pretty key on where they're going to hit you. So you can kind of plan for that. I've learned that through a sad trial and error basis. Don't get me
Sure.
wrong, but they do give you a decent amount of training for reasons of why people are swinging and stuff. So if you meet their needs, generally you're fine. But you never know.
Well, and you can't please everybody, right? Like you're kind of in a shitty position anyways because you're getting a lot of people who are being forced to be on holds and people don't like being trapped.
No, I mean you're really taking away their freedom for
Yes.
X amount of hours, and whether that's because they're a danger to themselves, danger to others, or they simply just can't care for themselves, it's still upsetting. I would be upset myself, especially if you're in a position like a lot of these people are, where you don't 100% understand why you're in this situation, which is incredibly unfortunate, but it's hard to explain to them that it's for your own good when
Right.
they eventually come around and understand that. Most of them, at least, the people that are not conserved or too far gone. But and at that very moment when they first come in, it can be tough. It can be, yeah.
So I don't play the video of this. So people are going to hear the audio and if people don't know what you look like, you have very long hair.
Yes.
Do you leave your hair down when you're working?
It depends on where I am in the unit. So if I am in the closed unit, I don't. But also at the same time, when I do wear my hair down, I put like either a hat or something on my head so people can't immediately grab my hair. They can grab it from the side, absolutely. but they can't immediately grab my hair. If they grab it from the side, it's not going to hurt me nearly as much as if they were to grab on top of the head. So I always wear a cap on, and I have seen comments in videos that are like, "You're wearing strings and you're wearing, your hair down." Yes, I am. But I am not worried. If somebody's grabbing the strings, I'm not worried about them being quick enough to either hurt me or hurt themselves.
Sure.
Can it happen? Yes, but it can also happen with a food tray, So it's very, as long as they're not wearing strings or anything like that, where they can be in a position that they have time to be able to hurt themselves or others,
Right.
it's generally fine.
Yeah, you don't want them to go, scuttle off to a corner and do
Yeah,
something there.
exactly, exactly.
So,
Mhm.
have you learned any lessons with your hair? Is that how you know to wear the hat, or is that something you just kind of figured out?
It's kind of what I figured out. I mean, you hear horror stories of people. There was one nurse in particular I heard that got her hair pulled and it ended up being like, but it was from the top and there was cervical fractures and stuff, and that is something I was like, I can't have it be pulled from the top. Absolutely. I mean, obviously things can happen. You can get whiplash if it's pulled from the side, but generally for the most part, I you weigh the benefits and the negatives of the situation.
Yeah, I had a buddy that worked in the ER, and that ER is known for getting more psychs than most other facilities. And he had his hair yanked once, and he cut it the next day because it was just too
Oh
much.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the other reason I wear my hair down is or dress more quote unquote casually is because I feel like that allows me to connect to patients more. Simply because they see me more as a like not as like a peer, I want to say, but as somebody who's going to treat them with respect as opposed to a person of authority. I mean, there is a fine line walking that. Absolutely, you don't want patients to take advantage of you, but at the same time, you do want them to open up and trust you. So.
Sure. And do you have protections when you're at work? So, like, when you do get assaulted, are you able to press charges, or is it something that's just expected, like, suck it up, you work here?
There definitely are protections. Recently, I mean, I've been sent to the ER multiple times. They pay for everything. I am asked every single time if I want to press charges. It depends on the situation. If we think we need to build a case against somebody who just simply is not, getting the care that they need or responding to care, yeah, we do need to press charges just so they can like people can be protected, they can be watched on the whenever they are released, people on the outside can be protected from these people that could have explosive outbursts. Generally, I do not press charges because they're in there. I've been in that mindset. If I did something wrong, I definitely would want somebody to hold me accountable. But at the same time, they need help. They need care, and it's definitely the name of the game. You are understood the situation, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a rough position to be in, but I mean, working on the ambulance for as long as I did, it was the expectation that if you're going to get hit, it's usually by somebody who is on drugs or who is intoxicated. And the belief is that if they're like this, they can't control themselves. But that needs to go out the window. And maybe from your perspective, it's different, but that's still a tough position to be in.
No, absolutely. And it is treated accordingly. Everybody is responsible for their own actions 100%. I just think that the actions can be responded to and treated better and they can learn better if legality isn't involved. I think a lot of times when people of authority bring themselves into situations like this or are brought into situations such as assaulting a nursing staff, you know again I immediately after I'm assaulted, after I come back to the ER, go up to that person and talk with them because that builds trust and that builds like I'm trying to get to the reason of why they did this so they don't do it anymore. I don't like being the guinea pig of the assault, don't get me wrong. But I think we can more control violent outbursts if we come up to it with calmness as opposed to with aggression.
And so I don't know how tall you are, I don't know how big you are, but do you think that you would feel differently if you were a female?
Absolutely, 100%. Um, I do work with females that are just absolute badasses. I mean, you have to be if you're in that ward. I definitely think it would be different though, for a variety of different reasons. I mean, I definitely have had, sexual comments or attempts thrown at me in the psych ward, but I do know that that is more common towards females in there. I definitely think it would be different if I was female. I definitely would feel way different and just in general life, honestly. But it goes hand in hand. I would rather be assaulted than anybody else that I work with for sure.
And do you feel like you get assaulted more than maybe some of your more than some of your female counterparts, or even more than some of your other male counterparts?
That's a good question. I think it's recently since I started, I've been assaulted more than most. And that could be because either I'm young or they look at me and they're like they're gonna come after me first because I'm the guy,
You're the challenge. Yeah.
I'm the challenge. And that's absolutely happened, that that's been reasons why people have come at me. I do think I'd get assaulted more, but I do think I would fear it more if I was a female or if I was trans or anything of that nature, just, a minority in a sense,
Sure.
because that just, it adds a whole nother level to it personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How tall are you?
About 5'11".
5'11". Okay. So you're taller.
I'm tall-ish, like yeah, like I'm a fine height. Like nobody would describe me as that tall guy. But they also wouldn't describe me as the short guy. I'm
Yeah.
just that guy.
You're,
Yeah.
you're average height.
I'm aggressively average in height. Yes.
Aggressively average. That's fantastic. So how long have you been in the psych ward now?
Since the end of October, beginning of November.
Okay.
So really just I am very new to it.
Okay. You talk a lot, or you've talked a couple times about having an understanding like where these psych patients are coming from. Do you mind if I ask where your psych problems have issued from?
So my personal psych
Yeah.
problems. So I mean I have struggled with mental health pretty much since about probably before this, but around 15, 16 years old is when I started having these issues for no other reason other than maybe I was just a teenager, except I still struggle a little bit today. I was diagnosed with originally just like depression and anxiety. I mean, I was somebody who self-harmed and went into situations like that. But I then was diagnosed with bipolar disorder with by my therapist psychiatrist who actually recently a few years ago passed away. So I can't dive too much into what she was saying due to HIPAA. I wasn't even allowed to find out that she passed away. I was just texting her and then she never responded and found her obituary online. And that's how it goes. That's what I was diagnosed with, and that was after I had tracked in a journal kind of my moods for various months, of like I would go up and up and up and be manic and then be down for about 3 weeks. I mean, it's just after they found that and looked at that, they were like, okay, we see where you're at. And I've never been medicated. I don't frown upon medication at all. But I think being how young I was and having the support of my parents who kind of forced me to go to therapy allowed me to find other ways other than medication to be able to control what I have going on. I don't think everybody can do that. They don't either for one reason or another. They don't have the resources. They don't have the personality. I think it depends. That's why I don't frown upon medication. I definitely encourage medication. But I have been in mindsets where, yeah, I could totally see why people are doing what they're doing. It affects everybody completely differently. I think a lot of the people that are working in psych wards and whatnot have dealt with these issues, so you can more so communicate with these people.
So do you think that working in the psych ward has helped like open your eyes to maybe some of what you're experiencing?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Yes, I think I think so. Yes, and I have kind of through teaching other people taught myself how to better behave. Not saying I have too many lapses or I'm not a well-behaved person. I am. I'm a very put together person, but there are moments where I need to be the patient and somebody else needs to be the nurse. And I think working as the nurse helps a lot with being the patient.
Do you feel like you recognize when you need that for yourself?
More so now. I mean, that's just like general experience. I can think of one time in college where, and this was the first time where I was really like, okay, I'm getting a grip where I need to surround myself with good people. I have one of my best friends. I knew I was in a manic episode, and when I'm in a manic episode, different things happen for different people, you know. I was like, I want to go out drinking, you know, but I need somebody to come with me, you know. And so she came with me. She let me be manic and kind of get it out of my system, but corralled me. And I knew I was able to trust her and stuff, and that helped a lot. Did I wake up with one of the worst hangovers of my life? Absolutely. But I think without her or without the support group that I have, it could have been way worse. You know, I could have been out buying everybody at the bar drinks and just losing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, or drinking way too much where I would have never been able to walk home, kind of that. But I've been able to control that more and more and more and more as time goes on, especially working where I work.
That's fantastic. That's great that you've been able to control that and to recognize it, right? I talk a lot about emotional intelligence on the show. So when you get to the point where you feel like I need to be the patient today, I need somebody else to be the nurse, what are your strategies for making yourself feel better?
I kind of shut myself off to like, I wouldn't say the world necessarily, but like screen time and stuff like that. I know I need to think things through a lot more when I start feeling things. I have one friend who says she recognizes her manic episodes when she enjoys a smell too much. And I thought that was great. That's a great way to recognize something. I think manic episodes are sometimes a blessing in disguise. It does birth a lot of creativity. It's a matter of harnessing that creativity. So I don't mind when I go manic, just because I know I can get very creative as long as I don't overdo it. But my strategies are pretty much think things through. Very
Yeah.
much think things through. Take it slow. Shut yourself off. Listen to the people that are around you. You know, I really, and it's a lot of like reinforcement that I have to do on myself, because when you're manic, you don't think things through. You don't listen to other people, but you have to force yourself to do these things. And it's pretty much just being giving yourself tough love.
Is that something that you have found to be a little bit harder now that you're on social media?
Um, I would say yes and no. I tend to not like social media more and more the more I am on it. I cannot stand watching other people's videos, because
Really?
I mean I can't like, I think it depends. Okay. I think it depends, but I feel like I just like, if I am on social media for 15 minutes and I put my phone down, I'm just like, I have wasted so much time that I will never get back. It just makes me feel kind of bad. Like I kind of just feel gross and icky. And like, it doesn't matter what I'm watching on social media. I could be watching something educational. It still doesn't make me feel good. So I think it actually has become less challenging, just simply because I generally don't like it. You know, am I addicted to it? Yeah, for sure, absolutely, as everybody is. But I've been on it less and less as the weeks go by and I upload the videos. So
That's good. And it's good for you to recognize moving forward, especially if you get as popular as I think you are going to recognize that and to force that hand when you need it to step down.
absolutely. Hmm.
Oh, that's great. So, in dealing with some of your depressive episodes and stuff, have you found that hard or harder now that you've become a nurse and you've seen kind of some of the stuff that nurses deal with on a daily basis?
No, because they usually aren't triggered by work in a sense.
That's good.
I think it's very random what they're generally triggered by. I don't think it becomes any harder, but I don't think it becomes any easier. I think every episode is different, but in challenging in its own way. But I don't think what I do for work has anything to do with personally me.
That's good. That can be hard. I think a lot of us have a hard time separating the work-life balance.
I think so. And that doesn't mean I don't have a hard time doing that, but just with regarding mental health in a sense, I don't think it has much to do about work with me.
That's curious. And I wonder if that's because you came in. I mean, you said you've been dealing with this since the age of 15 or 16. It sounds like you are very mature for your age because you were able to recognize those symptoms and those issues that you were having, which has led you into, it sounds like, a fairly good position into entering the medical world, which is great because I think a lot of us get in at a very young age. Like I got in at 18, and I think you see a lot of people get in at a very young age, and it can cause some mental health issues, especially if you don't know how to cope with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, I don't think it's as much me as it is the support I had. I have to give props to my mother and father for getting me into therapy. First off, recognizing mental health as a problem in society in general, supporting me throughout the whole thing. I don't think if I had the support system that I had growing up, or even now, that I would be the person I am. But since they, allowed me to get help, and I had access to help, I that's why I am who I am today. Is simply because of that. And I can't imagine if I didn't have that, if I'd even be around. It's just it. I had the help that I had. I'm very grateful for it, and yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's amazing to hear that you had such great resources while you were growing up, right? Because a lot of us don't have that. And it's not to say that we can't survive without it. I didn't have a lot of that either. And here I am.
Yeah, true. I mean, that, and that I think it's different for every single person.
It is.
For me, I definitely harp on the the reason I am who I am today is because of the support system. I think I would be a different person. I don't know if I don't think I'd be the exact same person I am. But it was very necessary for me to get that help and have that support system.
That's great. So how do you cope when you see something like really sad or kind of bad at work?
Uh, they say nurses have the gallows humor, which is kind of just finding light in the darkest of situations. That's kind of what I do, internally in a sense. I I'm very good at being able to separate, dark situations at work from everyday life. Absolutely. I don't have a whole lot of answers regarding to coping mechanisms as much as I just, when you see stuff like that, it's so horrid. A lot of people don't understand, but laughing helps. And it's not laughing about the situation or the
No.
patient. It's how people move on and get on with their own personal lives.
So do you feel comfortable sharing maybe one of the worst things or a couple of the worst things that you've seen in your career?
Absolutely. I think I've seen quite a few terrible things. I've seen more bad things, I feel like, at the sniff than I did with psych. More bad things have happened to me at psych, but visually seeing it, the sniff, when so I worked in Flagstaff, Arizona at the sniff, and that's near the Navajo Nation, and a lot of the Navajo culture does not talk about death. They just do not do that in their culture, which is very respectable. 100% understand. But that also meant that, very, very, very old Navajo people, 93, 94, 95, would be full codes, regardless that they were on long-term care. So seeing CPR done or doing CPR on patients that are dead, but you are the RN, you can't say to stop doing CPR because that's not in your certification, it's not in your licensure, is tough, especially when it takes EMTs to get there for a little bit. You just have to pretty much, it's like pulverizing a corpse, for X amount of minutes because of one reason or another. I mean, you're never going to get them back. They died of natural causes at 96, but legally you have to do that, which was very tough. Mhm.
Yeah, that is tough, especially when like you can tell grandma or grandpa are like ready to go a few days before they code.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I picked up so many extra shifts that I really felt like just a part of their family. And they would feel the same way. And you could see how they were trending day in and day out. And so, yeah, it was definitely tough. Worst things I've seen for sure. Worst thing that's happened to me was getting assaulted out of nowhere, kind of getting punched in the face about 3 weeks ago now, where I had to get head CTs and stuff like that in the ER. Went to work the next day, of course. But um, yeah, he came out of nowhere, got me right here. I was out of the nurse's station for maybe 5 seconds, did not even see him in the hall, got me right here. I blacked and thought I was having a stroke. I was just like, I'm having a medical emergency because I didn't even see the punch, didn't see him, didn't see the punch, thought I was having a medical emergency. Still messes with me a little bit in my head. I mean, once I was able to see, I stayed on my feet. Once I was able to see, I was going like this, and he was trying some more, but he wasn't able to get anything else in. I'm just lucky I was able to keep all my teeth. I still have some lacerations in my mouth and like cartilage damage, and the vomer bone actually bruised in my face. That was the worst thing that definitely happened to me for sure.
Yeah, that's rough. I had a paramedic friend who was walking with a patient up to triage. And he, like, they were friends, and then he out of nowhere grabbed her by the neck and dropped her down on her jaw and actually fractured her jaw. And
Gosh,
so you
yeah.
just never know,
You never know. And after the incident, one of the big bosses came up, and they were in the most respectful way possible, was like, we have to be hyper vigilant out there, like. And I was like, I can tell you right now, I could have been John Wick and still gone out there and he didn't gotten my shit rocked, like there would not
So
have been.
that was very much a what could you have done better
Yeah, yeah.
situation.
It was,
Man, dude, that's
what
so
could we
fucked
do
up.
better? And I was like, nothing. What we could do better. And the thing is, I had told them earlier in the day, I was like, this person is focused on me. If you keep putting me back here, eventually he's gonna hit me. It was the whole like, he thinks I was, laying bombs around his house or whatever. But I was like, if you put me back here, he's going to hit me. Like, he's going to get to me. But then they were like, what can we do better? And I was like, not put me back there with him. Like, I was
This
like,
is
that
which
that's
roles.
that's what we could have done better. What could I have done better? Called off. Like, that's that's what I could have done better.
Dude, oh, that's so not cool. Especially when you are hyper vigilant to what's going on and you try to change it and it still doesn't get changed. That's unfortunate.
And again, like I said, I would rather be assaulted than any of the other staff. So I do understand why they were still putting me back there. They have not put me back there with them since, which
Oh,
is
that's good.
once he is discharged, I'll be able to go back there. And I do miss it's the more acute closed unit for sure. I do miss being back there. I feel like I can do really good work on both, but I I feel like I'm in a better position being who I am, that I can help out better back there.
So, do you guys have peds and adults?
No, we just have adults, and it's a range. It goes from 18 to, and I think the oldest, I don't even know the oldest I've seen, but yeah, 18 and beyond. And there's like other hospitals that had Jerry psych and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
this is not. This is everybody underneath the moon that is of legal age to vote. Um,
So, to get admitted into the facility that you work for, do they have to be like walkie talkie? Or can they come in restrained? Or can they come in chemically sedated?
they can. It depends on how they have to go through the ER first. So it just depends on how they treated them in there. I think they use restraints in the ER way more commonly than we do in psych. I have never ever ever put anybody in restraints. Even after the guy hit me in the face, even after I've been assaulted, we don't put people in restraints. It's just I it just bugs me. I would never do it. But yeah, they have come in restraints. They have come in and chemically sedated. They have come in, with multiple security guards. It just depends on the situation.
Yeah. And it's such an interesting perspective between mine and yours. It really is crazy that you talk about not like wanting to put people in restraints. And I'm not saying that I go around and I put everybody in restraints, right? I'm only going to, yeah.
I'm not shitting on you at all. If I was in your position, I'd 100% do it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, I think it's unique and I think it's good. No, I think you do have a very in touch feeling with humanity, and you can tell that you put yourself in other people's shoes to see where they're coming from, and it's refreshing. It's a nice, and that's probably, I mean, I'm sure some of it is that you are a fresh nurse, going on 1 year, and maybe you just haven't been hardened by the job yet, but it could also be how you feel, you know.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think it'd be a very interesting experience to do this 20 years from now, this same exact interview 20 years from now, and kind of see what the changes are, because obviously there will be changes. But I do feel like I do bring a fresh perspective, being who I am, and being so new to the field, to these patients, and to the, mental health in general, that that is nice, and I feel like can help patients that a lot of experienced nurses can't.
Yes. So what made you think, I don't want it to sound offensive, but like what made you think that you were funny enough to be a comedian?
I don't want that to sound offensive. Don't worry. You couldn't offend me. I've
I
heard worse.
mean, you're a nurse. We haven't started the nurse jokes yet.
Yeah, exactly. But what made me think I was funny enough to be a comedian? It's other people generally. I mean, obviously you have to have some sort of egotistical way about you in order to think you can go on stage and be funny. Um, but I had always done theater and whatnot in high school, and my dad was like, "You should be an actor," as I was on my way to college, and I was like, "That's ridiculous," like let me be more concrete on what I'm gonna do, and actually be able to buy a house someday. I was giving him the dad talk to
That really
the
says a lot about how much your dad like loved you and encouraged you to do something he thought you were great at. Like that's such a cool thing to hear.
Very much so. And like I said, the support system I have from both my mother and father is fantastic. I mean, I would not be who I am today without them. But I remember getting to college, and my fiance and I started dating in high school, and she was a year ahead of me in college. But I remember going to like my first week of classes and being like, I miss being on stage. I miss being on stage. I don't, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I have found that I don't love crowds unless I'm the center of attention, which,
Oh,
which is like a good thing to know,
it is a good thing to
like
know.
absolutely. I'm not just like going out there and trying to be the center of attention, but I know I don't like crowds unless I'm the center of attention. Um, and I was like, I was talking to her. I was like, I miss being on stage. I miss like being funny and doing all this. And she was like, well, why don't you try this? And she showed me the flyer for the open mic, sent it to me, and I did it and was ever hooked since then. It really becomes a legit addiction once you get on there and love it as much as I do.
That is amazing. And it really, like I said earlier, like you can really tell how loved you are by the support you're getting from everybody around you.
Yeah,
I hope you offer the same amount of support for everybody else.
I definitely try to.
Good.
I don't obviously I can't speak for how much support people feel from me.
Yeah,
I am always there for people. I always let them know I'm always there for them.
that's fantastic. So, what's your favorite kind of content to talk about when you're on stage?
It varies. I really think it varies from crowd to crowd. I do have very structured jokes that kind of have a semi dark twist at the end, for the majority of them, but it's a lot of them I think are just silly as well. Content wise, it's anything underneath the moon as long as it makes people laugh.
Pretty easy then. It sounds like you have an organic feel on the stage as well.
Yeah. I love very structured and written jokes. It's not very, I don't really deviate from that, but content wise, it can be anything. Because as long as I can make it funny, I'm gonna do it.
So, how often are you doing your shows?
Pretty regularly. I was on tour a few weekends ago, in Arizona. I went on a kind of a 4 night, and I just started a production company as well. So I was using that production company as kind of like a test to see how this would go. It went very, very well. We sold 3 out of the 4 shows out, which was fantastic. But I do my shows pretty regularly. The next show I have is 2 days from now on Friday night, after I get off of work. So at least, and I go to a few open mics a week. So at least show wise 2 a week, where I'm like legit actual shows and spots, open mics at least a few other times a week. Every comic is different. I know there's going to be comics that are listening to this and like, if you're not out there every single day, no, I mean, I've been doing it for a while now. These people, a lot of comics just think you have to, cut your teeth. And I did, I cut my teeth. I'm in a spot where I can develop jokes a little better than most new comics, but every comic is completely different on their philosophy on how they approach it.
So if you could perform on any one stage, what stage would you want to perform on? What's your goal?
My ultimate goal, where I think I will have completed my goal, like just 100%, would be Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Mm.
That's a very high goal. There are very many mini goals in between there. Don't get me wrong, but I think if I could one day do that, that would be the number one. That would be I could quit. I would feel comfortable quitting, retiring or whatever, and just I succeeded. I succeeded.
That's great. No, it's good to have those high goals. We got to hit the little check boxes off in between.
Oh yeah, I mean there are steps. I mean this is the stairway to heaven. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong, but yeah, that's my number one. I would love love to perform there.
Is there any group that you would want to do comedy with, or any individual you would want to do comedy with?
Yes and no, but I think that's mostly my friends. If you're talking about bigger comedians, I'm not 100% sold on with bigger comedians, just because they already have their own set crowds and whatnot, and I don't know if me working with them or whatnot helps either one of us, for one reason or another. I would love to just take a few friends with me to the top, or have a friend take me to the top or something like that, as opposed to trying to network, because I don't think I could, like all the comedians I look up to, I don't think I could work with, because there is that separation,
Sure.
of I am a fan of you and you have no idea who I am. Even if I was at their same level, I'm still a fan of them. They have no idea who I am. So no, simply because of that. But I do have friends where I would love to do stuff with them. Absolutely.
That's cool. Really like hashtag goals, right?
Hashtag goals.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if you could meet your favorite comedian, who would your favorite comedian be?
At the moment, it'd be Nate Bargatze. I think he is one of the smartest comedians out there. Plays it off like he is incredibly dumb, and he may be, but he is genius in what he does. It is very different from any other comedian that there is out there right now, um, and everybody can watch him and laugh. That's one thing I don't think I have the ability to do, is have every single person laugh at me. My jokes are tailored to certain people and whatnot, but he could make my 90-year-old grandmother laugh, and he could make my 6-year-old cousin laugh. I mean, that's brilliance in of itself. I would love to meet him and just talk. Would I like to work with him though? No, because I would be too in awe.
Doing all. You'd be starstruck.
I would be too starstruck. That's why I don't want to work with any of these people. Is I don't want to be the fan that's trying to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I want to be just like you. People like to hear that, but they don't at the same time. Like,
Yeah. No, I feel that. I mean, I'd love to be on Joe Rogan's show, but I couldn't do what Joe Rogan does, you
no,
know?
yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
100% same thing.
Like that kind of style. Yeah, that's great. So with your production company that you just started, like what are your goals for that?
Really, it's I don't have many goals with it yet. It's kind of just feeling out how, so the production company is He Can't Read Productions LLC. Um, the name is He Can't Read because I think it catches people off the bat. They're like, I don't understand what this is, and then they look more into it.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. The goals really is just to see how far I can take it. I don't have ultimate goals for it. I'm gonna do this tour called the Go Back to Cali tour in Arizona every 6 months. Every September and every March is kind of what I've decided there, and then expand from there. We also are a sketch comedy group as well. So we will be producing high quality sketches and, shows, as well as any podcasts that want to come along and join our, our little circle. It's going to be mostly comedy, almost 100% comedy, just because I feel like if I want to make it good, I know I can do comedy well and produce it well for other people. I don't want to expand beyond that unless I have different divisions. And right now it's just me and my friend Joey. And so it's just the two of us, and it really, we'll see where it goes. But I don't have any specific goals because I don't want to limit what I'm doing. But
No, that's fantastic. Do you have any theme ideas yet?
what do you mean?
Like you talk about doing skits, right?
Oh yeah. So theme ideas, it's pretty much just gonna be quote unquote short films.
Mm-hmm.
Film. We have many. It's anything under the sun and moon. One of the biggest inspirations I have is definitely Tim Robinson's I Think You Should Leave. If you have not seen that, if anybody out there hasn't seen that, it's on Netflix. Watch it. You'll see that there's not a consistent theme, more so just crazy storylines that end up being like the most niche and funny things possible. There are many sounds on TikTok, what I found, that are derived from the show, such as like the 50 burgers, 50 fries, 50 shakes. That is from I Think You Should Leave, and it's one of the funniest sketches ever. That's definitely one of my biggest inspirations is not necessarily have a theme, but just try and find like a niche moment in life and make it as funny as you possibly can.
No, that's fantastic. If you ever want ideas, I could probably throw a couple of medical ideas at you. That's exciting, dude. Well, it sounds like you're on a good track. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today, and I want to give you the opportunity to kind of talk about anything that you feel that we haven't talked about today, or if you want to shout out or do whatever.
I think there's all like very small things. Everybody out there, if you're listening or whatnot, rethink your ideas on mental health. If you have any negative ones, or even if you have positive ones, rethink, learn more about it, because again, we still don't know enough about it. So keep researching, keep learning about that topic and a variety of other topics. I'm going to plug myself for a little bit. You can find me at Jack Svets on most social media platforms, and at He Can't Read is going to be my production company on Instagram as well as Facebook. Please follow, please come to my events that we are producing. And that's about it. I don't plug myself a whole lot, but I definitely will.
That's fantastic. So when are you going to come up? Flagstaff isn't very far from Albuquerque.
Albuquerque has definitely been in mind. I'll definitely hit you up if I'm ever out there producing shows or whatnot. But
please do.
That's one where if I'm driving to Texas, I'll stop and do a show.
Awesome. Yes, please do. Let me know when you come in. Jack, it has been absolutely amazing having you on today. Thank you so much for coming out to the 911 Nonsense podcast.
Thank you so much, Sam, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother, I appreciate it. I hope you have a good day.
You too.
Thanks.
You too.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show and want to show your support, be sure to check out the Noon merch store on Bonfire. Find the link in the description below. Also, if you have any guest suggestions, or if you're interested in being a guest on Noon yourself, visit the website at www.samspursuit.com to get in touch.